not wearing a hat, I feel out of place.
You don't need a hat,
You're out of
man.
place.
Your your
Ladies don't
your
wear
your
hats.
hair doesn't need to be bothered with.
Glorious.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel. I'm Still Young, and we are here doing a tech talk with the brilliant Crazy Mad Ride. So, welcome,
So
guys.
thank you. Thank you for having us again.
Well,
Cool. So, could you introduce yourselves and what you do within the band?
Sure. My name is Brandon Barker. I'm the founder, vocalist, and guitarist. Well, guitarist number one. He's a guitarist number two over here. But yep. So that's what I do.
My name is Doc Lopez. I'm the second guitarist.
I'm Dwayne Bjorn. I'm the only drummer.
The only drummer,
The only
man.
drummer.
The only drummer there needs to be too. But he's also back. Doc is also backing vocals. He forgets to add that. But he is backing vocals.
Yeah. Cool. So, let's get into talking about the tech that you use. So, guys, well, to start off with, let's start with the guitarists. So,
All right.
what type of what type of picks do you use in your guitars?
I like the Dunlop .96, the Gatorhead Dunlops .96 because they have that film on them that keeps the pick from slipping out of your fingers or whatnot. So, and it's always worked for me. And plus, .96 isn't too stiff, but it's not too thin at the same time. So I usually go with a .96 gauge. But
Me personally, I prefer the John Petrucci Jazz 3 picks because they have the grip on top,
Yeah.
but they're also smooth on the bottom, so it makes it easier to do a lot of fast picking and sweep and stuff.
Cool.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
what
that's-
did
I like the like,
so
right
what-
now.
So, what type of do you use EMG pickups or do you use any other? Have you got a favorite a pickup for the guitar?
Yeah, right now, my top threes are Wilkinson, which you get on like the vintage guitars, which are actually made in the UK.
Yeah.
And then I like Seymour Duncan's, but both those are passive. I love the sound of an active pickup. I have an Ethan Hart guitar, and it has the Seymour Duncan Blackouts. I gotta say, the Seymour Duncan Blackouts are probably my favorite pickup of all time.
Cool.
So I only really use two guitars, and one of them has a pair of passive Seymour Duncans in them that were just, built by Jackson but designed by Seymour Duncan. And then the other is a BC Rich with two AMGs in it. And honestly, I gotta say, I think just the extra gain in the tone from the pickups being active with the AMGs, they're definitely my favorite because it just has a little bit more punch than the passive ones do, which I like.
Yeah, it has his that BC Rich he's talking about has the same setup as that's the kind Zach Wild uses, and he's one of my favorite guitarists. So I always love hearing him shred on
Zacharias
that.
Wildest. Zacharias Wildest.
But yes, pickup wise, definitely active pickups is what we tend to like the most.
Cool. So, what type of strings do you use on your guitars?
I use Ernie Ball 10s, just the regular Slinky on all my guitars. I think you use what?
The ones that they're also Ernie Ball, but they're the hybrid pack. They're the light top, heavy bottoms. So it's got the 10 gauges on the top three strings and 11s on the low, which I like because I like more tension in the strings when I'm playing, on the lows at least, because it also gives it a little bit of a thicker tone. And I'll be honest, the only reason I bought them in the first place is because Kirk Hammett plays them. So, but they feel really good.
Well, I'd like to add, he's talking about the tension with him as having a heavier bottom. He plays with a little bit more mids than I do and a little bit lower end. So his lower end mixing with my higher end playing, like with the treble, I play with a lot of treble, but they blend well. So I think the mixture of his heavy bottom and then my regular Slinky Ernie balls, they actually go really good together.
Yeah, it ties the mix together.
Cool. Do you use any sort of like effects pedals on your for your guitars?
Yep. So I categorize them in, you got effects pedals, and then for us, I call them tone pedals. So the tone pedals I call like EQ pedals, sustain pedals, or distortion pedals. Those to me are the tone pedals. And for those, I do use a Metal Zone, Boss Metal Zone 30th anniversary. I think it's just a very versatile pedal. And I use an MXR equalizer and a Boss sustain pedal for my tone. And then for effects pedals, I have a TC Electronics Flashback for the delay. I have a Morley. It's a 1998 Steve Vai wah, I think. It's a wah-wah pedal, and I like that one because the Morley, the 1998 ones, it engages. You don't have to press down hard on the top to engage it. As soon as you engage it, it turns on. And to me, and then it springs back, which I like. I just like the spring back pedals. And I also use a Octaver, I think it's an OC3 Boss OC3 for one of our songs called Lunacy, to give me a more lower end, which sounds pretty cool. But that's it for me.
I don't use too many. As far as tone goes, I have a Boss Metal Core pedal, and a delay pedal that I use at the moment, which is also a Boss. I sometimes swap it out with another Boss chorus flanger pedal, just because when I'm soloing and stuff like that, I like just the way that it makes the tone sound on the high end. For effects, I have a harmonizer pedal that I use that on some parts of our songs and just in a solo, if I feel like throwing it in, I engage that. And then I'm not sure what the year is, but my grandpa gave me his old vintage Dunlop Crybaby wah, which I definitely like. It's got a lot of it's really sensitive, which is good because I don't like to rock it too much back and forth. I like to be able to kind of just nudge it in either direction, and it gives me a good range.
Yeah, cool. So, what type of amps and cabinets do you use whilst on stage or in the rehearsal room?
So the cool thing is probably a week or two ago, I finally bought an amp head that was actually worth a good bit. It was about $520, something around that. But I bought an orange Super Crush 100. And when I started this band, like if you would have asked me if I would be playing an orange amp, I'd been like, no, that's for like hard rock, right? No, you don't, or Jimi Hendrix or something. I'm like, I don't think that would work. But with the Metal Zone pedal, and I plugged up the Metal Zone to the orange amp at the music store, and I fell in love with it, and especially the clean channel, because I wanted an amp. I had a crate amp that I got for like $60 at an estate sale, but the clean channel was just a little too low end. I couldn't really dial it the way I wanted, but that orange amp is so versatile, and it is I'll probably stick with orange for the rest of my career. Not going to lie. It's just that great. So yeah, right now I'm just sticking with the orange Super Crush 100.
Cool.
I've always been in love with like Marshall style amps. I've always thought that they were cool, but my friend who used to live in Memphis with me, his name is Jacob Burns. He's also an amazing guitarist. But he had a Marshall HGFX 100, and I got to play it a couple times because we were in a kind of a band together at the time. And since I played his, I've always wanted one. So eventually I got one of my own, and it's great. It has really great response with the pedals. A couple different built-in effects that I don't use most of them because I have the pedals for them, but the tone overall is just really good. It's good in the low end, and it's got enough mids to be thick, but it doesn't like overwhelm like some amps do. But for when I'm practicing at home, I have a Boss Katana 50 Mark II. Definitely just an awesome amp. I've used that thing for a really long time. It has anything you could ever really want for a practice amp, and if you don't, use a bunch of effects just on its own, it can handle pretty much anything.
Yeah, cool. Cool. So, what type of this is probably going to be my last question for this segment of the talk. It's just my question is, what type of cables do you use in linking to your guitar to the pedal board from the pedal board to the amps? What type of cables do you use?
So cable wise, I use Ernie Ball. I love Ernie Ball cables. They have never done me wrong. But I'm running the Ernie Ball from the pedal board to the amp, and then from my guitar to the pedal board, I'm using it's called an NUX. I forgot the exact name, but it's a 5.8 gigahertz wireless system by NUX. The reason I went with the 5.8 gigahertz is because it's like, what is it, 2.7? Like the 2 wireless systems, they get a lot more interference like from cell phones, because those frequencies, like cell phones run on them, and there's just a lot more opportunity for interference. So I go with the higher gigahertz frequency wise. And also with the higher gigahertz, it helps with less interference. Like with active pickups, the tone's much better. So I go with the NUX wireless and then Ernie Ball cables.
Cool.
Yeah, I use
Yes.
I use a Boss cable that I've had for, it must be like maybe 4 years now, because I bought it when I like first started playing, and it's never done me wrong. I've never had any issues with that cable, and from that goes from my pedal board to my amp. But for my guitar to my pedal board, I got for Christmas I got a wireless. I think it's called a Geneva.
Really?
It's not a very big brand, but surprisingly, I've never really had an issue with like any interference or them like dying out or having like a weak signal. The only time I've ever had a problem is when we forgot to plug them in before a show, which is not.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't charge
Yeah.
it, it's gonna die.
So-
but
that was the only time they've ever given me any problem.
wasn't it called like Technica or something like that?
I think it was Geneva.
But yeah, that sounds But yeah, so that's don't ever make the rookie mistake of not plugging up your wireless. I've done it. He's done it. So,
Mhm.
but you know what? That's why you always no matter if they are charged or not, always bring an extra cable just in case. All guitars need to have bring as many cables as you need, and then some. Like bring a spare on top of the spare.
Mhm.
See, he's my emphasis.
Yeah. So let's move on to the drummer.
Hey,
So,
it's your time to shine.
So what type of drum kits do you use?
I have a Yamaha drum set that I use for practicing, and I just carry it to play concerts or shows, whatever as well.
Yeah.
I have a couple other drum sets at my house and like at a friend's house, but I just mainly play the yellow one.
Yeah, isn't that called maple finish?
Yeah, it's maple.
The maple finish.
No,
Yamaha?
it's a natural wood finish.
Natural wood, okay.
Yeah, natural wood finish. I dig the natural wood. I've always liked natural wood instruments. Just looks cool to me.
Mhm. Yeah. What type of sort of like drum heads skins what type of skins do you use for the drums?
Evans drum heads, but I burn through them really fast. So I usually just get the Remo drum heads. They're affordable, and they don't burn up as fast. I say burn up. I mean, like they don't get the big dents. If you hit a little hard or something.
Yeah, which he does. Yeah. But in a good way. You have to. We play loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what type of bass drum do you use? Do you use a single bass drum or do you use a double bass drum?
I use a single bass drum. I have a 20-inch bass drum. Actually, I don't like really big bass drums. I think they sound I don't know. They don't fit me. They're hard. Bigger ones are hard to play. You can't really hit it closer to the middle. I feel like the bigger they are, the closer to the bottom your foot pedal sits. But I use a double kick pedal. I have a couple of double kick pedals. The the main one that I use here, I don't even remember what brand it is. It's a double kick pedal.
Yeah, he uses double. One bass drum, but a double kick pedal.
Double kick pedal,
But,
definitely.
And for the tone we're looking for, the bass drum he has now, we wouldn't really want any bigger, maybe down the road, but I mean, for what we have now, it's insulated so well that it has that nice tone to it. That's the nice deep tone to it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what type of kick pedal do you use, but you've already answered that.
The kind that works.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a couple over the years. My favorite that I've ever had was one of these ones called an Iron Cobra, but they're really expensive. You know that. I don't know. Maybe in the future I'll get one of them again.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
We will. Definitely.
So what type of cymbals do you use?
I really like these two brands. I love Zildjian, and I really love Paiste cymbals. They don't sound cheap. Like I have a couple cymbals that are cheaper on some of my other drum sets, smaller, cheaper cymbals. It's just, it fits, that drum set. But like this drum set, I like to keep my good cymbals on, mostly.
Yeah. So let's get onto the microphones. What type of microphones do you use?
Let's see. In the rehearsal space, I believe they're Scarlett. They're called Scarlett microphones. But I'm gonna tell you what. When it comes to microphones, I love Sennheisers. Like if we're in the studio or I'm when a venue has Sennheiser microphones, I love Sennheiser. Sennheiser to me is the way to go. So, yeah, basically, if it's Sennheiser, I like it.
Yeah.
And then
I'm not too well versed.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest.
I like that, and I like Sennheiser. The Scarletts aren't bad. At least I believe they're called Scarletts. But yeah, Sennheiser is the way to go for me.
I forgot.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
I forgot one thing. I don't know whether it's frowned upon in the drum community, so people can hate if they want. But a little trick that I learned, I can't actually remember if it's self-taught. I think somebody might have actually showed me. Wherever your hammers, or you call them your beaters for your bass drum, where those two of those hit, I take quarters there. A quarter. We have, the U.S. currency is a quarter over here, so it's about. Well, I'm not trying to be rude. I don't know if your coins are the same size, but it's about that big around, and I use duct tape and I just stick it there where the bass drum. Let me show you.
It does sound good.
Drum hits it.
It does sound
good.
So
it gives it like a more of an impact hit. Like you can hear it if I bet. Excuse me.
It does sound more dense.
If I barely hit it, or if I really. Excuse me, or if I really hit it hard. But it's more like a volume thing. Like every single time that I hit it, you can hear it. And instead of just a little thud or like a hard thud, I can also control the volume of it. Sorry to cut the guys off. I just forgot to mention about the quarters. Not a lot of, I don't know if that's, some people think it just wastes the bass drum head, but if you're sitting there stomping it and trying to make it break it, it will. But I've always used quarters because I call it calibrating myself. I have to calibrate my feet, to the quarters definitely help though, as far as consistency and always hitting the bass drum and always hearing it every single time instead of, maybe having a flaw here or there. Quarters. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So with your microphones and your singing, have you ever used or consider using sort of like distortion pedals for the vocals?
For the vocals, no. My voice, I can do enough of a raspy, gravelly type voice. I don't need distortion. Now in the studio, every now and then, like like a bridge vocals or whatever, like this next song, Scorpio. Like we put a little extra distortion on my voice just for like a bridge part, but then it goes back to what I sing is just or vocalize. It's just my voice,
Yeah, I was the only reason why I asked that is because I have seen a few singers use distortion pedals or use pedals on the vocals whilst playing live.
Yeah, I'm pretty
due to
sure.
weight.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure if you listen to some of like Rob Zombie stuff, what was another band?
Alice in Chains does it a lot with the
Really?
yeah,
Okay,
the backing.
I'm sure there's a lot that's done. I know there's a rock band called Charm City Devils that I listened to. I think they were like around the 2010 era. They were a big deal. But like a lot of rock singers, rock or like the like a lot of the 4/4 guys, like Rob Zombie and yeah, just rock guys do
It
it.
gives it a good boost.
It
gives
well,
it a good push.
It gives it just a certain tone that gives a feeling that you can't really mimic, or just emphasizes.
It's almost like it catches all your emotions in the microphone.
Or it just fits the music.
Yeah.
Really, I don't know if it's about emotion, but it matches the music. If it matches the music, I can see people why they do it. But yeah, I don't do it much, not at all.
Yeah. So that's sort of like what type of leads do you use? Like cables. I've got to keep remembering you not using the English with the American English. It's sometimes So what type of cables do you use, if any, for your microphones? Unless you use wireless microphones.
No, I definitely use the XLR cable. I can't quite remember the brand. I think it's Dynamics, maybe, is the brand. But in general, just it's actually don't buy the cheap XLR cables, because I bought cheap XLR cables and either they don't last or right off the bat they're just wonky, So definitely go with a higher end XLR cable.
Yeah, I was going to say I use as you can see, I use like decent cables for the radio show, and I think I paid about 15. I think about £15, which is around about $20. I'm going back about 5-6 years ago now, so I don't know how much they cost now, but getting decent. Each band I've spoke to say get decent cabling, spend a little bit extra money on the cabling because it makes a hell of a lot difference.
And it'll also save you money in the long run. It will.
Yeah. So now this is probably going to be my last question. Now there are people out there who are thinking about becoming a musician.
Okay.
Can you give any advice for people who basically want say to pick up a guitar? Can you give advice on like as a starter kit, a starter bundle for like playing a guitar or being a drummer type of thing?
Well, I think I've always believed that for any starting musician, because I've known people who said they tried to learn something, but they couldn't learn this scale or something. I asked them, I'm like, is that what you wanted to play? And they're like, no, but I heard you needed to learn it. I'm like, well, you won't want to lay the guitar down or lay your instrument if you play what you like to play. Now, I get some people like maybe just don't have the fingers for it or something, but like, there's so many different levels of guitaring, or with any instrument. You don't have to be a Jaco Pastorius on bass or, Yngwie Malmsteen on guitar to enjoy it. If that's what you want to play, cool. But especially for the beginners, don't get discouraged, because enjoy the feeling of it. Don't get upset over the fact you can't play something. Enjoy the feeling of what you can play, and then practice that, and then every now and then, practice a couple hours what you love, and then maybe for half an hour, practice the hard stuff. Don't burn yourself out. It's not worth it. Just play what you enjoy. That's all I can say is if you enjoy it, play it.
Basically, if say for me, um, I'm looking for a guitar, I'm looking for an amp, and what would you say about for me to go out and say buy to actually buy them to start out on? How much would you say to like sort of like pay for the amp, for the guitar, the cables and stuff like that, just to start out on?
So you're asking for like how much you should pay for like a starting kit, basically, like a
Yeah,
guitar.
it's just yeah.
What would you say? $200 or $300 for a
Well,
guitar, at least
200's
I-
fair.
to be dependable.
Well, honestly, it depends on what your budget can be and how badly you want to do it. Because buying a mid-level guitar that's like $250, $300, spending that much will probably incentivize you to play it a little bit more because you're like, oh, I spent all this money. I should, play the thing. But I stuck on a $40 guitar that I got off of Reverb and one of those 3-inch little like Marshall Cube portable amps because that's all I had the money for. And you don't need expensive equipment to start out, but it's good to have it because I will say as soon as I upgraded to my first real guitar was an Epiphone SG, and as soon as I upgraded to that, I enjoyed it a lot more. So I'd say spend a little bit more if you can, but if not, then start on whatever you can get your hands on. Like, as long as you have the dedication, that's what you need.
To add on to that, I will say this: my first electric guitar was like an $150 LTD Viper 50. And now my fingers are so fast. If I try to play on that, like it hurts the tips of my fingers because the frets are they're set up for a beginner. So like if I'm doing fast stuff, like you can feel it thump, 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 on the frets. You can feel your fingers. More expensive guitars like flow better, they slide better. But I will say this: if you do get a cheaper guitar starting out, sometimes it can make you a better player in the long run because it strengthens your fingers because you have to like try to play it. But I wouldn't necessarily buy cheap. Maybe buy an acoustic and practice some stuff on an acoustic guitar because it's like weightlifting for your fingers. But definitely, you'd want to at least, if you're starting out, to save yourself some money, at least get a $300 guitar or more. And then amp wise, I mean, unless you're going to be playing shows, you don't really need an amp head and a full half stack. You just need a combo amp, a little combo amp. And little combo amps you can get for like 150 to 200. So all in all, you can get a starter kit, a good starter kit that'll be dependable for around $500.
What about the drums? What's your advice for like?
That's on him.
As far, I want to add on to the guitar thing. Also, you can also just spend $500 on a good guitar and then save money to get an amp. I mean, if you see a guitar and you gotta have it, you're like, oh, this is the one. This is a guitar. This is the one. That's just something to add on. But as far as drum sets, I've had so many drum sets in my life. I've probably had about 27 different drum sets. I've sold them, traded them, butchered some of them, did this and did that. But my favorite one that I ever had was to start out was this Pearl. It was just a bass drum, a Pearl bass drum, and like an old Pearl, really fat, big Pearl snare drum, and a hi-hat and a double bass pedal. And I think I had a China cymbal and a crash cymbal and a ride cymbal. I didn't even have any toms. So, and then I eventually, seen some here and there for, yard sales or something, and I would buy them. That was probably my first drum set. I had a Frankenstein drum set, was my first one. And then, being older and working, I was like, I don't know by myself. I've had one of my favorite drum sets ever, was super expensive, but if you're looking to begin, you don't want to have a $1,000 drum set just to sit it and
unless you can afford it.
Yeah, if you can afford it, but also you have to remember to be nice to your parents if you live with your parents, because they have to listen to that shit all day. Or roommates, girlfriends, boyfriends. Either way, they have these beginner kits though. I think they're the best. And if you decide you don't like the drums, you know, it's really just a couple $100 or pounds, whatever. No, really no love lost. You can even sell it if you don't play it enough and get your money back. But I like those. I like the Ludwig drums. I think they make the best smaller beginner drums. They're like $200-300.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to add on to what he was saying. So for those beginners who do live in an apartment or something where noise is going to be an issue, but you want to learn to play drums, electronic drum kit.
They are the way to go.
And you know, the
I have
first
an
one I got
electronic drum set.
was a D drum kit, which is okay, but if you want a good like accurate electronic drum kit that has good sensibility to it, Alesis is the
Oh
one.
yeah, I've had one of those before. They're very
those
responsive
are
as
kind of
well.
pricey, but I mean if you're just looking for the basic, then D drum.
But you know, for the money that you would spend on a beginner drum set, say, you know, the smaller one with the, you know, the little fewer accessories, you can spend just about that same amount on one of those Alesis electric drum sets. And then you'll be able to turn it up, turn it down. And also with that electronic drum set, you can adjust, hey, my snare's too loud. Hey, I want my cymbals, you know, a little lighter. You can adjust each individual thing that you hit on the set. So for beginners, that is a really good option as electronic, because, you know, it saves with space and time as well. You know, having to deal with neighbors.
Exactly.
Or roommates, you know, just for privacy as well. You might not want anybody to hear you playing the drums, so it shies a lot of people away. I don't want somebody to hear me not know how to do this. Fuck them people.
Now we got to put rated PG-13 at least on this. No,
sorry,
you're good.
Yeah, it's pretty much an 18+ channel anyway. So
I think, like I said, I think Pearl and Ludwig make the best beginner, because I'm a quality over quantity guy. I don't care if there's 100 crappy little drums. I'd rather have 4 great drums, you know, for the money involved. So you want to go with something that is at least brand name. That way, if you decide you like it, you've got something that's a good foundation to build. Well, you can add more cymbals to it. You can add little drums to your nice Pearl drum set that you know, Ludwig. I like those as well. Me, Yamaha. I got the Yamaha just only because I like the color of it. And the 20-inch drum, you know, that makes it easier instead of big giant trash can. No.
yeah.
Anyway, that's my input.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. It's been insightful. It's been educational. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having us. You put on a great show.
We love you, El.
Yeah, we love you, El.
Hey, sorry for my language, children. Do not repeat that. Bad language.
But I do want to say one more thing. We were actually just recording for the lyric video. We're going to be releasing. Going to try to do it next weekend, but we have a new song we will be releasing next weekend. I'm gonna get this made, and so next weekend you guys get to hear Scorpio.
You guys ever heard the expression, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this? We really did.
Yeah,
we did. We put a lot of effort into this song.
Yeah, I've bled on stage before.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, El, we appreciate you having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. And again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a total pleasure. And yeah, stay tuned. There's a new song coming from Crazy Mad Ride.
Scorpio. See you guys.
Yeah. Right, guys. Thank you. Catch you all later.